Good afternoon, guys. It's Clint, Sharp Solutions. Welcome back to the channel. Right then, so it's a bit of a different video today, but it is all carpet related. So the truck mount has been a gem to have. You know, it does exactly what it is supposed to do, but obviously when it comes to mechanical side of things and truck mounts, it does scare a few people, including myself, because you can feel out of your depth. Now, most of us these days know how to change a motor with it all being quick release, and even a pump. You know, most pumps come with quick release systems now. Although a lot of people still just put them straight into the shop and have them serviced and repaired, that's absolutely fine. But then you have got that side that like to do stuff themselves and get it passed off like I do. So I know an electrician and I know a plumber who will check most of my stuff off if I go and do anything like that. And I'll only ever do what I feel comfortable doing. So before the video starts, I'd just like to say I am not a qualified plumber, nor electrician, nor an auto electrician. So this is something that I feel I can do myself. So I'm going to go ahead and do it myself. So basically, let me tell you about the story. So a few weeks ago, in fact, I had a problem with the 12 volt pump. So for those out there that haven't got truck mounts, thinking about getting one, might be a bit daunting on how things work, bits and bobs like that, I just want to go over a couple of things. So what happened, I was on a job and the pump stopped feeding the header tank. So for those that don't know how a truck mount works, is this 12 volt pump here feeds your hydraulic pump, which is here. And how that works is this tank here, this is what holds the water, the fresh water. And then just down here, if we can see, this pipe here, it feeds up to this pump, the water, through the pump, out this top, round here, into this here, which is your female connector, down the back and all the way up to your header tank, where the heat exchanger and everything else then heats the water in there and puts it out through this hydraulic pump, which then comes back down all the way through to this point here, and that's where your solution line hooks up to and your water comes out hot in this case. So that explains how it works. Right, what happened was these machines, they're meant to have what's called a pressurised pump. Now, I didn't know. I brought it off an absolutely top bloke. Shout out to him, in fact. Shout out to Rich. He basically kind of semi-refurbed this machine before I brought it off him. So he put kind of high temperature seals in the pump head, made sure everything was good, made sure everything was running as sweet as a nut. Now, I've had this machine, it must be coming up to it must be 2.5 years coming up, and it has never missed a beat. These Spitfires are from the Ark, you know, but they're simple machines. They are air-cooled machines, and there is not as much to go wrong as there is on like a water-cooled machine. The bigger you go, the more problems you can have, and obviously that results in more cost and things like that. So a lot of people like these air-cooled machines because there is a lot less to go wrong. Nevertheless, it's not like a portable where you've got obviously your wiring loom, you've got maybe 2 motors or 1 motor and a pump, you know, and a control switch panel. There's obviously a lot more independent parts on a truck mount. So first of all, you've obviously got your motor. Now that's separate from your coupler in the middle here. That turns, and that's your blower there. On top of the blower is the pump. At the side of the pump is the header tank, and then at the side here on this, because it is a Spitfire 4.0, we've got a 3-bar heat exchanger. So you've got different components, get my words out. Yeah, you've got different components. And what can happen with truck mounts is, just like a car, you know, when something goes wrong with the engine, it could be anything. And it's obviously going to cost you more to put right than it is in a portable. And 9 times out of 10, it could be down for longer periods of time, because it's not as simple as an high-end portable. It's a lot more advanced, let's say. So the downside that I found on having a truck mount at the moment is I'm based in Derby in the Midlands, and I've not yet found a specialist in Derby that I can take my machine to for servicing, and if anything goes wrong with it, who really knows his stuff or her stuff, you know, whoever would do that kind of stuff. So at the moment, the closest guy to me is CCM Tech, and they're based in Doncaster kind of way, Rotherham way, I think it is. And I've been up there a couple of times. Mick Bullis, he's a guy that owns a company, and he is a fantastic guy. And he's serviced this machine, and I've only had a couple of minor little things that were probably, you know, I could have probably put them right myself, but I went and seen a specialist who obviously figured it out straight away. However, like I say, this is something that I feel I can do myself. So I've done my own research, and I've asked a couple of people, including Rich, who I brought the machine from, and they've told me the reason that these 12-volt pumps burn out on the head, on the switch, is because the demand from the hydraulic pump asking for the water, it's under pressure all the time. So they work great, okay, if you get a good one. But unfortunately, this pump that I put on a couple of weeks ago, it cost me about £60, and I do think it's a Chinese replica, because beforehand it had the SureFlow pump on, and that lasted me, well, 2.5 years, you know, no problems whatsoever. And then what started happening is it started missing a beat, the pump did. So it was pumping water very slowly, so it wasn't filling up the header tank half as fast as I needed it to do it. So then what happens is, if your header tank ain't full with water, the machine will just cut out, because it's asking for water and the water isn't there. So instead of running it dry, it will just cut out. It's got a switch panel at the back that's designed to do that for the safety of the machine. So that's what kept happening, you know, and you can't run a machine like that. So obviously been using alternative cleaning equipment and things for the jobs. So it was a simple change, okay, that I done myself the first time around a couple of weeks ago, because literally everything is here. The hardest thing I think that I was going to do was probably connect these wires, your live and your negative. So apart from that, it was pretty simple. We've got it on a couple of bolts here. Made sure obviously we had some PTF tape, some plumber's tape around the thread. Made sure we had all the necessary things to couple the pipes up and things. So I was quite confident that it was a straightforward a straightforward job to do. So I attempted it myself, and I did a good job, you know. I basically took pictures, that kind of thing, so I could just put back in place exactly how everything was, and it only took me about half an hour to 40 minutes to do it. It was very, very simple. So the reason I'm now changing this pump is because, like I say, this is, I think, a Chinese knockoff of a SureFlow pump. I don't think it's original. The stickers aren't the same, and the build quality of it, when I compared the motors together, just looked cheaper. So I think under that pressure, this one has obviously lasted far less time. Now, the reason I'm doing this video is because I searched YouTube to try and find a video of a truck mount of a pump change, and I couldn't find one. So it's obviously something that might be in demand, that could help people that like doing things themselves, and then obviously having it passed off by a professional. So this is the pump of choice that I've gone for, the Seaflow professional grade pumps, okay? And that's because this here is a pressurized tank. Now then, what happens, just for those wanting to know the difference between the pumps and why one like this has been said to be necessary. So imagine that pump there is this pump here, and we haven't got this on at the moment, which is making this pump head switch burn out faster than it should do because of the demand from the hydraulic pump, as I stated. So what's happening is it's under pressure and it's too much for that pump. So how this basically changes things is, instead of it coming straight to the pump and taking it straight from the pump, it's going to take it from this pressurized canister. This pump trickle feeds this canister, which is pressurized, and it comes pre-pressurized, okay? Now, the water sits in there, and when the hydraulic pump asks for the water, instead of taking it straight from the pump on demand, it's taking it from here, and then this is trickle feeding this bit here. So they are meant to last a lot longer for that reason. So that's why we've gone for the Seaflow pressurized system, and this is what I'm going to be fitting today. And I'm quite impressed. I've opened it up and it's mounted on this kind of hard plastic backing plate, and all the wires at the back are connected. So you got your negative and your live. Pretty straightforward. And just like if you've ever seen kind of a speaker setup where you plug your wires into the back, these just turn round, you loosen it out, you feed your wire through these bits here, and then you just fasten it down. So it's almost like a quick release as well, which I found fantastic. Now then, the whole mounting side of things. Obviously, this takes up more space, so finding somewhere in the van that ain't a million miles away, because these sort of pumps, they're good for about 3 meters. So obviously it needs to be somewhat near the machine, and I wanted to actually keep it on the machine, but as you can see, there's just no space. I mean, I even thought, would it go on the front? I thought, no, it's not going to go there. It's definitely not going to go on the back where the 12 volt pump at the moment is. So we're going to mount it just at the top here, okay? Now, I'm hoping that we're good and we're lucky with these mounting holes on either side that I've got, because this used to have a rack in, this van did, and I've offered this up, and here's my holes, this side and this side, and I've offered it up, and it actually all lines up quite well, and I like the height of it. I like everything about mounting it there, so that's where I'm going to be mounting it. So I haven't had to drill any holes at the moment. I might do, you know, I might not get away with it, but I found out 2 bolts that actually fit these holes lovely. They're the correct size, depth and everything, and they just screw in. So I'm really hoping that everything seems to line up. So I'm hoping that it does. And we could just put these 2 bolts in, and then what I thought I'd just do with the bottom is, rather than drill holes and put screws in there as well, because the 2 bolts are going to hold it secure, I'll probably put a couple of cable tie clips just around the bottom, and I think that's going to do the job just fine. So before I disconnect the pump, I'm going to have to disconnect the battery, because obviously we don't want no current going through anything beforehand. Right then guys, so you probably know that I've got the long wheelbase Vauxhall Favaro with 2 sliding doors, which has worked out fantastic for this Spitfire when it comes to maintenance. Although it's tight and I could have got a bigger van like a Crafter or even something bigger than that, I went with the long wheelbase Vauxhall Favaros because I know the make, I know the van type, and I've had them for a fair few years, different ones. So that is definitely what I wanted to do. It is a little bit tight, but I'm going to keep it real and show you exactly what we've got to do. So, down here is the battery. Before you do anything, always disconnect the battery. So, it is literally negative first, which is your black lead, then the red positive, always. And then you put them back on the same way you took them off. So, let's just disconnect this battery. Okay, right then, the battery is now disconnected and we can comfortably work. And to disconnect that battery, guys, I used the 13mm spanner. Next thing to do is pop that safe. I always kind of keep it up on my dash there. We've got to disconnect the pump. So again, black first, followed by the red. So these 2 leads here, battery's disconnected, remember, so we're going to get no arcing or anything else like that. And then, there we go. So we're now fully disconnected. There's nothing, no surges going through the truck mount anyway, because like I say, the main battery has been disconnected. Right, the next thing to do would be to get off the pipes. So we're probably going to make a little bit of room for ourselves, and I might take off this pipe and get that out the way so that I can get to it a little bit better. I don't know if it's totally needed, but it might be easier to work without that being on. So it's a 10mm in this case, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. This is my recovery pipe, so I'm just going to pop that through there so it's out of the way, and it just literally gives us a bit more room to work at. Next thing is, I think we'll disconnect the female from the male here. We should lose a little bit of water. Okay, that's disconnected, nice and simple. Keep a rag there for what's dripping. Let's disconnect the top part of the pipe. Right then, what we've got here, size wise, I think it's a 7. So okay, that's that pipe off. We'll pop that down here where it's nice and safe, and we'll now take the other side of the pipe off, and I can just see it appears to be another 7. There we go. Now you could obviously use a socket set, which I've got. I just didn't really think it was needed. You can get this little spanner in quite easy, where sometimes socket sets can take up a little bit of a unwanted room. So that's loose enough. Right, so the pipe's loosened. Now let's just loosen the bolts on the actual pump itself. Right, so all I've done here, if you can see, I've just popped the spanner on the back of the bolt, and I've got a Phillips on the front side of it. And then what's happening is the spanner is coming up against the motor and holding it in place, so I can unscrew this. I might need to just keep a finger on it. That's loose enough now just to come all the way out. Right, so before I offer the pump up, because it's easier to do it out, I'll put a bit of plumber's tape around here. So this is the filter that come with the pump as well, and it's going to be much easier to connect that while it's off. So we'll do that now. Nice and slow, so we don't cross thread it. Got, like I say, some plumber's PTF tape on there. That needs to really be facing down. Will we get another turn out of it? Oh, it's going to be tight. Boom. Spot on. Right then, so that is the pump all mounted to the bulkhead, and that's not going anywhere. Nice and secure, that. So right, let's get the pipes run up to it. Okie dokie. Wow, this is all connected back up, and I've run up obviously to the pressurised tank on that side, and that's all coupled up. I've just put a zip tie around this bit so that vibration when it's pulling keeps the head sturdy, because they are some long runs and I didn't want it all flapping about. So yeah, I'm about ready just to get the wiring loom done up, and I think I'll run that up through here and just out here, so it's all tucked away in this recess here, and then just connect them in. That shouldn't take too long. But so far I've really took my time. This is a weekend day, so I've had the time. I wanted to do it correctly, make sure obviously every step was done to the best of my ability. Yeah, and at the moment I'm very happy with it. And here's the wire of choice. So I went for 17 amp, so obviously it's got enough to cover what it needs basically. And it's only 33.5 amp on the actual pump. So the red and the black is plenty to cover that. Put a spade on the end of it. Let's get this connected up, and then we'll tie that back as well, so that that's nice and secure against this here. Right, that is all wired in, guys. It's just time to connect the battery up. Red first and then the black. So make sure it's on nice and tight. A little screw around with the finger first. Don't over tighten it, just nip it tight. And then the black lead. Okay, so I'm just going to drain the header tank so that when we turn on the ignition, the pump should kick in and start feeding that header tank. If I didn't drain it, obviously it would have been already full, so it wouldn't have. Right, that's it. So this is live. Let's shut that off and let's give the key a half turn and see what happens. There we go. We've got water to the pump. Right then, so as I say, the pump is all in place. We've fast forwarded 2 days. I keep it real as I can on this channel, guys, and I wouldn't want any misleading going on, so I'm going to be deadly honest with you. We've changed the pump, okay? Now, when I half turn the key, that fills, obviously, the header tank. Now, what was happening before with the old pump that was only 2 weeks old was it would start with strength and then very quickly lose it and start spluttering. So obviously I thought that the pump was at fault. Now then, when I installed the new pump, half turned the ignition to fill up that header tank, the exact same thing happened with the pump, which obviously told me we've got a problem somewhere else. So what I did was disconnected the female from the male at the front. I then put a male on the end of the female to bleed this pump as you would any pump on any portable, let's say. Now the water was flowing out brilliantly. I was happy that this pump was working. So the pump that I'd just taken off was also working. So I then knew that we had a problem from this point all the way up to the back. Let me walk around and show you. So, tracing the hose that fills the header tank from that female connect at the front, comes up and goes up to here. So what I did was disconnected it from the top, okay, and squoze the pipe all the way round and down. No water was coming out the top when this was off, which obviously told me that there was either a blockage in the pipe or there was something going on in this bit here. So I disconnected the pipe from the solenoid. That's what this piece is, the water solenoid, okay? When I squeezed the pipe, when it was off here, water came out the top. So I knew that there was either a blockage in this part or the solenoid was at fault. So basically I disconnected here, made sure it blew through on both parts, and it did. I then went to blow through the solenoid and it was stuck on. And also this part here, which is to generate the electrical current to give it PSI to pump it up and through, was not working after connecting a voltage meter. So I knew this was at fault. Now, the solenoid itself from Hydramaster cost me about £97 plus the VAT. So I wouldn't say that's as cheap as chips, let's say, but then chips aren't cheap these days. We know that, guys. So it was one of those things that, because it came with a filter housing and it was one unit, it was simple to bite the bullet and get it, because I really thought, this is it. This is where the blockage is. This is at fault. This is why I can't get water to the header tank as it should be. So last night, literally a 2-minute job to reconnect this, connect this up from the inside. I didn't film it. There's not a lot to it, to be fair. It's always best to take it off on the inside if I could get any information, because trying to twist this round or trying to undo it on the tank is quite difficult, because obviously you've had pressure going through there. So it's best to do it while it's off. So what I did was I disconnected the pipe. I then disconnected the chemical injection tube as well. So it was just this, okay? The battery was still disconnected, guys. Remember, the battery has to be disconnected. I then took a picture so I knew which wire went to which terminal. Took those out. So that left it from here to here. I then opened the header tank and turned around anti-clockwise the inside part, which released this whole unit. Once I got this off, I then put it in a vise. I took that off and that off because it was strongly stuck. After that, obviously waited for the new part, put some Loctite lube around the threads, popped it together, didn't over tighten it, because anyone who knows brass couplings, if you try and over tight, you can actually split them. Same thing when it came to putting the pipes back on these Jubilee clips. If you over tighten them, anyone who's done that in the past, they can also kind of lose their tightness and the thread just gives. So you just tighten them up to where it's got a decent taut, where you can't physically move the pipe off, and that's enough. It literally took me, I think, 20 minutes to take that off. Disconnected that, opened the top, took it round, pulled that off. Obviously this came off, disconnected this, put it in the vise, disconnected it, then put the new one on and basically reassembled it as I'd taken it off. But I did take photos and pictures all the way along. So that solenoid there was at fault. So anyone with a hydramaster 4.0 that ever has a water problem, that obviously thinks it's the pump, my advice to you is to please check that the more simpler things are done first. I should have done that. So now, we've got a brand new pump and a brand new solenoid and all is good. But really, it was the solenoid that was at fault. I did need a pressurized system anyway, so it's no love lost. And I'm actually quite pleased that we've now got a proper pump with a pressurized tank, so it will take the load off the pump. We'll get no head smack on it. So the last thing to do is to show you guys that it obviously is running fine. Now, I've not started it up this morning, so it might need a bit of choke, but it is quite warm this morning. Okay, it doesn't. It's all good. We're ready for the day, guys. Have a blessed one.